Hello, everyone. I am live to talk to you guys about the brand new book, Faithmare. Now, the cover that actually is on it is a little different than this, just on the side, but that is the actual front cover of the book. And the idea behind Faithmare is religion-based horror, which, as I talked about, there are a lot of real life religious horror things, but I decided not to touch on that because everybody knows about Charles Manson, and Jim Jones, and all these stories really well. So I decided to stick to strictly fiction stuff this time around for this, and we start the book with a poem by Glenn Tilson titled "The Children's Shrine." And it's short, it's just like two stanzas, but it's a very Lovecraftian poem, and I thought it was very good. So I was glad to put that in there. And next up, we have Anchorite, which is by my good friend Heath D. Alberts. And it's, I don't know how to describe it without giving too much of the book away. But by the way, planning to do a bunch of like I've done for some of the other ones, little one-on-ones, or perhaps maybe a couple of the writers at once, do these little chats to further promote this book. And in the process, I'm going to have Heath on there, and maybe he can talk about it a little more. But let's just say it has to do with a house and a discovery and a link to the past. And there's definitely a religious aspect to it. We've got some classic tales, which I'll get to at the end. My own story, the debut tour, which is about a rock band that's on their first tour, and a journalist who's covering them and finds out that there's something really disturbing about it. And it was my attempt at writing a Lovecraftian story, my first attempt at writing a Lovecraftian story. And it's very much, I tried to capture the Lovecraft vibe with the way the story was told. Including, I think that it sort of telegraphs what's going to happen. But one of the things I've always liked about Lovecraftian stories is a lot of times you really sort of know right off the bat what's going to happen. But part of you is just dreading the fact that it's actually going to happen that way, and you're hoping that it isn't. And sort of that's what sort of is going on in my story, the debut tour. Or at least I think that's what's going on there. We've got a story called The Day New York Went Silent. It's by a gentleman named Alexander Chiochetti, and I hope I pronounced his last name correctly. I should have asked in advance. In any event, it's his first published story, and it's sort of, without giving too much away, there's someone decides to heist a church, and for various reasons that are pretty well outlined in the beginning of the story. And that doesn't go quite as planned. Let's just say that. And it's a rather horrific outcome for him. The Hillside Altar is by Del Merritt. Now, that one was published, my debut tour was published before several places, including Lovecraftian branches. Del Merritt's The Hillside Altar is also published in Lovecraftian branches. And it has a real nature god sort of vibe to it. Certainly, it's a bit more, shall we say, sexual and sexualized than anything Lovecraft would have actually done. But it definitely has a Lovecraftian thing going on, no question about that. And it's a pretty freaky little story. And then I close it out with my rite of passage, which is it's sort of based on the Aztec blood ritual sacrifice kind of religion, but I didn't specifically make it Aztec because I didn't have names and stuff, and I actually didn't want to screw with the history of that, because I put a little twist at the end that ties it into vampire lore, and I didn't really want that connected with Aztecs. So it is sort of based on the Aztec culture, but it's really not Aztec. But it is about the time when the conquistadors are making their way through South America and conquering things. And all that, and it definitely focuses on a religious rite. So those are all the new fiction pieces. For old fiction pieces or classics, we've got Canon Alberich's Scrapbook by M.R. James and The Festival by H.P. Lovecraft, which of course is a major classic. The White People by Arthur Machen is also a classic. And In the Court of the Dragon by Robert W. Chambers, you really can't say classic without, saying that. So that's pretty much everything in the book. You can get it at lulu.com/spotlight/strange sound. You can also get it by going to garyhillauthor.com and going to the Tales of Wonder and Dread page 2 page, and that'll get you there. And as I said, I'm going to do some more of these, do some joint ones with some of the writers in here, featured in here, and hopefully get some more information on some of these, and we'll have some fun with it. So get your copy of Faithmare today. Spooky Ventures is the home for spooky content and spooky merchandise on the web. Check it out today at spookyventures.com. And remember, always keep it spooky.